Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. Today I went onto LinkedIn and saw that Jane Goodall passed away, and I think that there's a lot of things that she and her organization taught us about leadership, so I'm going to be weaving some of that through the training today about burnout, right, and creating this lasting legacy. And Jane Goodall's legacy isn't extraordinary because she sprinted, right? She burned the brightest and the fastest, but because of her ability to sustain her efforts over multiple generations, right? And grow her organization into something that is absolutely worldwide, right? Her mission is going to be sustained for decades past when she lived, right? So in contrast, many of our best performing teams don't last that long, right? They burn out quietly under this weight of being reliable or having the spotlight shone on them, right? But today I want to talk about why and what you can do to help these high performing teams that are probably your most, I would say actually your most at risk teams. Right? They're most at risk for quietly burning out, for building resentment, for being the breeding grounds for toxicity, and for heading to collapse. Right? Now, dysfunction hides behind so many noble purposes, and I hear it all the time, especially within my nonprofit and my healthcare clients. We're saving lives, so the personal needs don't matter. Right? Just sacrifice a little bit. Or the mission is bigger than any person's individual comfort. Right? You might just have to sacrifice. Now, with the groups that have gone through burnout training, and then I have a chance to speak to individuals after that, they say complaining feels selfish, especially when people are depending on us. So yes, I know that I'm headed that way. But if I don't show up, if I can't do these things, if I can't perform at the top level, who else is going to do it? Right? Who else is there? A very scary position to be in. And then we hear, right? Everyone's dealing with this. Everyone's suffering for it. Everyone else is sacrificing for the greater good. It's not just you. Now, Goodall's mission was global, yet she modeled that no one sustains impact by denying their human limits. And she was able to adapt her work, right? I'm not going to say that Jane Goodall didn't work a lot, but she was able to adapt, even shifting to virtual Jane during COVID and then pacing herself in her later years. Because longevity of a mission really relies on the sustainability of each individual person, right? The ability to sustain the efforts of each person within your organization. And there's lots of those hidden signs, especially within your star team, with those like ace players that you have, those people that you think, if that person left, if they burnt out, I don't know where our team, our organization would be. They will leave a hole. Right? That's a lot of pressure. So oftentimes they masquerade their burnout as dedication. They work late, right? It becomes a badge of honor, not a problem to solve. When they're sick, they're still online. When they are at the doctor's, they are answering emails on their phones, right? This badge of honor that comes with, yeah, they are dependable. Could be what's starting to burn them out. Oftentimes these individuals push off investing in their personal well-being. So if there's problems, they may think, you know what, I just don't have the time, I don't have the money, I don't have the energy to invest in things like coaching or schooling or their personal health, right? Because they're so invested in that one workplace. Have you ever heard somebody brag about skipping vacation for the cause, or, you know what, I'll do it later when we don't have these huge projects happening, or, you know, like there's some deadlines and I wouldn't want to miss this. And I know workplaces have gone to like mandatory, you must take your vacation. Now, the scary part is some people have gone to use it or lose it. So these people are just not taking vacations now. Right? Very, very worrying place to be in. Right? They have this mentality of like, oh, I can handle it. Oh, don't worry, just give it to me. Right? It becomes that default response, but it's leading to overload. You just can't see the cracks yet. Right? Sometimes they even get defensive when you suggest that they need help or maybe can't. Right? It is a threat to their persona within your team. They don't want to let you down. They don't want to let you know what? Yeah, there might be cracks. I am struggling, right? That's a really scary, vulnerable place. Now, Jane was able to show us the opposite of burnout. Her impact didn't come from squeezing every ounce of herself into her work. Yes, she was passionate, but it came from persistence over time and patience, right? Knowing that changes weren't just going to happen overnight. And teamwork, right? Calling in other people to help, to support the work that she did. Yes, she has a foundation, but she didn't build it in isolation. There are so many other organizations that supported and surrounded her and her team and her organizations as she grew. She also had to adapt across the decades, right? What worked back when she started may not have worked today, right? So how do you adapt with new technology, with new people, with new ideas? Now, there's a few different red flags, and I've called them the, like, we've got this red flag, right? Everyone loves to hear, oh, don't worry, that team, they got it. Some signs that this might be happening is that meetings get shorter, but problems don't get solved. One of the organizations I worked in, we had 2-hour, we called them 2-hour meetings. They truly only took about 30 minutes because it was an update meeting, right? These status updates, but not a real conversation was had because, there's a lot of people in here. So if it doesn't apply to everyone, do we really want to talk about it? Yeah, you do. Because those people have other expertise, other knowledge that they might be able to contribute to issues that are being faced by people. So by bringing in that mentality to, it's not your little team's got this, it's we've got you, right? The organization has you, and just because that person's sitting someplace else in a different department, in a different team, doesn't mean they can't contribute meaningfully. So take it from, it's okay to not get this, to we've got you, please bring your issues so we can surround and help, right? This is a team effort. It's an organization. That's how you start breaking down. That's just one of the steps on how to start breaking down these silos, right? This is an issue when you do that 30-minute meeting or like schedule the 2-hour meeting, do the 30 minutes. And then afterwards, there's a whole bunch of meetings happening in the hallway. I know that you know exactly what I'm talking about, like those little pods that start forming, that it's like, okay, now like what's actually happening in your area? Or hold on, I can help you with this. Oh, but now I've retained an hour and a half of my time, so I'm actually just going to run off and do more work. Right? Very scary. Those meetings should have been happening in that room, right? With everyone's opinions and perspectives. And then the subgroups happen after that. We shouldn't have to chase people down to help them. This is huge because teams often stop asking for resources or support. So this is another like, hey, don't worry about it. We've got this. But oftentimes there are gaps. There are issues. There are problems. I don't know a single team that hasn't faced some sort of an obstacle within the year, within the month, even within the week. Very rarely do things go smoothly all the time. So by understanding, okay, what's going on, right? Like, let's be honest here. Chances are they're taking on too much and they're just internalizing it. So when teams stop asking for resources When teams stop asking for resources and support, that's a huge red flag that something else is going on. New challenges can get absorbed without discussion of capacity. Right? Oh my goodness, I'm sure you've seen this where it's just like, oh, that belongs to this team, that belongs to this team, this change. We see it with the major departments. We see this a lot in HR, we see this a lot in finance. I'm sure whatever group you're in, you've seen this as well. Like, well, we'll just give that to them because it is under their job profile, right? Even if it's other duties as assigned. And there's no discussion for capacity, right? It's not a matter of if you can handle it. It's like, should you handle it? What are the other obstacles that you're going to come up against by handling this, by taking it on, right? We can only hold so much. We know this because everyone has like their personal like weightlifting limit, right? You can only hold so much until something gets dropped. But we keep stacking it on without asking, like, can you actually handle this? Right? And lots of times they won't speak up. So it's really important as a leader that we are doing that. Okay, what are some of the issues if I give you this? Now, on the flip side, people can become really possessive about their work, right? They see value. They see that they want to be the go-to person. But that might mean hoarding information, hoarding resources, right? They become possessive. No, I'm not going to show him that. That's not my job. No, I'm going to do all of those reports. You don't know how to do them correctly, right? We don't want outsiders into our group. We have a perfect way of doing it. Don't come in here, right? If you see possession, there's something else lurking below the surface, and chances are it's getting stressful under there. Or there's something else going on and you need to take a look under that hood. Possession, not a great thing in a workplace that wants a really strong team dynamic. Now, when Jane Goodall began her work, yes, she did start alone, but she didn't work that way for very long. She brought in collaborators. She built institutional support. And she invited other people into her mission so that when she was having bad days, there was somebody else there. When times were getting tough, there was other people that were there speaking and holding her up, understanding what the goals were of the mission. Right? Those high performers that say, like, we got this, are refusing that same help. And they often do this until it's too late. But don't worry, I know I've really dwelt on a lot of the negative things, but there are signals. There's things that you can do. So just like Jane Goodall's work focused on noticing those subtle shifts, right? Seeing what was going on in the chimp's behavior, these small signs of stress, these changes in group dynamics. Like already I can hear you like, oh yeah, the stress signs, group dynamics. Yeah, I can see how things shift. Even if they are not where you are right now, possibly a different workplace, I know that you've seen them. We all have. Either in ourselves, our colleagues, or the people that we love and surround us. Right? Leaders need this same observational discipline. Now, one really important thing that I want to point out here is, yes, Jane Goodall lived around these pods. I'm sorry, I don't know the proper name. If you do know, drop it in the chat what the names for the groups or the families of these chimps were. But she still lived on the outside. So she had an observer view, right? Looking at the stress, looking at the dynamics, she had evidence to support what shifts were happening. And as leaders, it can get extremely challenging because we're integrated into those groups. So one thing that I love to do was actually being able to step out for a few hours or a day and be that fly on the wall, or even checking in with my team to say, what is going on? What am I not seeing? What am I not noticing? Lots of times team members act different in front of their boss, their manager, than their director. than they do when they're functioning on their own. So you have to be able to take that pulse check, take that external perspective, like that backseat, balcony, whatever you want to call it, to go, what is actually going on here? So that you can notice those shifts before the collapse happens. Right? Some of the signs here are that team performance is staying high, but innovation is dropping. So yes, they are getting so much more effective. They keep rolling out the projects, but there's never the question of, well, could we be doing it better? Could we be doing it different? What are some of the obstacles that we can overcome? They stop bringing up new ideas or areas for improvement. Now, if they are in burnout phase, this becomes increasingly challenging. In studies that were done between 2021 and 2023, they really solidified that there is things that are happening inside the brain, like changes that are happening inside the brain, that are making this far worse, right? There's things like memory loss, difficulty focusing, reduced verbal skills, right? And as I go through this list, I want you to think about, okay, how might they be masking this? Because here's what's happening when the memory loss starts happening, when the difficulty focusing, when those reduced verbal skills, is they will often work harder to try to make up for it. So that email that should have taken them 2 minutes to write out is now taking them 10 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour to get back to you, because they can't focus, right? They can't get the words that they want out. It also impairs your multitasking abilities, right? We're not functioning in the same way. Oh, where we see this showing up big is those impulse control problems, right? And I've seen it in myself when I've been burnt out, right before I was put on leave for burnout, that snapping, right? The short temper, you get frustrated. The impulse control, right? It can go from behavior to habits. This is in large part because they have a decrease in executive functioning, right? Your learning potential is going down. So again, not wanting those new ideas, right? We just can't take it in. And the amount of information that we're trying to process, right? That is going down, our information processing abilities. So if you're seeing this, massive red flags that they're already in the beginning stages, if not nearing the end of that burnout, because cognitively it's starting to affect them. Now, because of this, collaboration can decrease, right? Everyone just focuses on their own piece. If I just do my piece really, really well, I can let everybody else fend for themselves, right? Also, with the impulse control or the snapping, people don't necessarily want to work with you. You could be putting up fantastic numbers. You could be getting everything done. But if you can't focus, if you're snapping at people, if you're not able to work through things, really problem solve, right? It can be challenging to work with those individuals. So the collaboration decrease starts happening. Now, one of the first places that we start seeing this is that the sick days are increasing, right? But people aren't talking about the overwhelm. Sometimes they are actually sick. I mean, the more stressed out we are, the sicker we feel. The more we lower our immune system, right? That's huge, right? Lots of times we get people flagged for, they're taking too many sick days. But why? Right? Even if they can come back and say, I had the flu and I had the cold and I had okay, so what has been happening? Because sometimes it's not just that there's more germs in the air. Sometimes there's other things that are environmental, not like bug-wise, but other environmental factors at play that's weakening their immune system. Right? Workplace stress weakens the immune system. So really important to figure that out, because they might not even know, right? Before I knew, I had no idea, right? I was just sick. I thought there was kids and schools and bugs and working with children, and that's what happens. It's also really dangerous for high performers to say that they are not working optimally. So a lot of times they hide it. Right? They built their identities around being the reliable one. I know, because I did this. Everyone was like, we can just go to Crystal. It's okay. She'll figure it out. She's always cheery. She's always happy. And if you admit that you are struggling, it feels like you are failing. Right? I can't do that, especially if you're watching other people around you start to crumble. You take that on. Right? Those individuals are thinking, man, if I collapse, we are going down. I cannot go down. So how do I even have that conversation? I can't. Simply, I can't. Right? You fear being seen as weak or replaceable. After I came back from my leave, I was inundated with the amount of people that came to my office and said, yeah, you know what? I also took stress leave. And because of that, I didn't get promoted. Right? I was told, well, now I'm not leadership material because I broke. Oh, like that one's hard, because burnout is all of these contributing factors going into that one moment. And sometimes it's not even your call, right? For me, it was my doctor saying you're going on leave. It wasn't my call. Horrible timing for everyone, but that was my life in that moment. And I saw it with others. Burnout never comes at a fantastic time, especially if you are trying to go for that promotion. Right? And you're just giving your all to it, and then finally you break. Right? But how do we put those pieces back together? And usually we actually come back stronger than when we left. That's the amazing part, because now we have all the tools and skills that we need to, and we can spot the signs, and we know what to do about them. So understanding and then taking that fear away from your team that, if you admit it, this isn't going to negatively impact your future. And then you have to prove it, right? We've all been told, well, there's no reprisal for this, but what we see in evidence is very different. So show that, demonstrate that, earn their trust by showing, yes, it isn't weakness. You aren't, yes, I would say to a certain extent, people are replaceable in their position, but not as the value they bring as an individual. So show them that. So important. Also, these past successes can make your current struggles feel really shameful, right? Like, I've been a top performer for so long. Why is this impacting me? Right? Look at that and have those discussions, right? This is a moment. This doesn't define you, right? Think of the courage that it took Jane to name those chimpanzees. And right now we look at it and like every animal. I know my daughter has like a fallow bracelet. And the animals all have names, but this was not the norm, right? It took a lot of courage for her to stand up and say, this is what I want to do, and this is important, right? Insisting on their individuality when the scientific world mocked her for it, but now it is the norm. And I'm hoping that we can start creating that change when it comes to this culture of burnout with high performers. Because often those highest level performers, those high performance teams, they often lack the courage and the space to be vulnerable. They hide behind their relatability, their humor, their like go get 'em positive cheerleading attitude, instead of admitting that they're struggling, because it's so intertwined with their personality. Now, as we reflect on Jane Goodall's absolutely remarkable legacy, I really want you to take away this one huge lesson. Longevity, it doesn't come from burning out. It comes from adapting, connecting with others, and finding a sustained purpose, not just pushing those individual tasks day in and day out. Now, that's why we created the breaking point, a community where leaders can have real conversations, share real answers with one another, and find the support from other people that understand the weight that comes with leadership. Jane's life has shown us that you can't do this work alone. Right? Connection and honest spaces make such a difference between quiet burnout and sustainable impact. Right? The breaking point, that's that space for when you've reached that, or to prevent reaching that breaking point that you just can't do this, you can't handle this anymore. So as you move forward, and I've dropped the link below, go and check it out, because it's time that we shift our approach. Instead of pushing our best people to their breaking point or feeling ourselves like we have to go until we hit it, let's build the conditions that are going to help us and our teams thrive. Let's focus on sustainable mission over time, listening deeply, and adapting wisely. Let's ensure our work, our impact is going to outlive us. Remember to do something today that will change your tomorrow. Until next time, and I hope to see you in our next video.